As our world changes, we'll keep you up to date with the latest information. News Talk KVNU 102 FM 610 AM.
KVNU News Time is 5:05. I'm Bill Walter with this news update brought to you by Roof Rescue. The staff of the Cache County Clerk and Auditor's Office is expecting a huge influx of general election ballots today and tomorrow. County Clerk and Auditor Jess Bradfield said they sent out some 67,000 ballots earlier this month to county residents. As of Friday, they had only received about 19,000 or 20,000 back. Even at an estimated 20,000 ballots returned, that would represent less than a 30% voter turnout. That's low for Cache County, according to Bradfield. In 2020, the clerk's office sent ballots to 63,833 registered voters in Cache County. A total of nearly 59,000 ballots were returned for a record voter turnout of slightly more than 92%. Granted, 2020 had a hotly contested presidential election up for grabs, but this year has been equally competitive with a Senate seat in contention between Senator Mike Lee and independent challenger Evan McMullin, as well as the controversial local race between County Executive David Zook and write-in candidate Mark Ensign. Both those races were expected to generate high voter interest, as well as the open space bond issue, Proposition 1, and the renewal of the RAPS tax, Proposition 2, on the ballot. Early voting for county residents at the Cache County Administration Building is now closed, but plenty of opportunities to vote still remain. KVNU News Time is 5:06. KVNU weather for tonight, mostly cloudy skies is our forecast for tonight, with rain likely this evening. Rain after midnight, overnight low in the mid-30s. South winds 15 to 25 miles an hour, decreasing to 10 to 20 later on tonight. Rain in the morning on Tuesday, then rain likely in the afternoon. High temperature in the lower 40s. Rain Tuesday night. Rain and snow Wednesday mornings, and then rain and snow likely in the afternoon. Some snow accumulation is possible on Wednesday, upper 30s for the high. Earlier today, we reached 57. Right now, it's 35 at KVNU. KVNU weather brought to you by Napa Auto Parts. Get yourself prepared for winter with help from your 5 locally owned Napa Auto Parts stores. They have antifreeze, fuel stabilizer, ice melt, Rain-X, and Trico wiper blades right now at your Napa Auto Parts stores from Preston to Providence.
This is Mark with Roof Rescue. Most of us don't think about our roofs very often until you see shingles on the ground or water drips through your ceiling. Keep your roof in tip-top shape to protect your home, your biggest investment. Roof Rescue uses only the highest quality materials with experienced workmanship guaranteed to last. Even if you were denied by your insurance company the first time, a free re-evaluation can be made. Visit roofrescueusa.com to schedule your free consultation in Cache Valley and surrounding areas. Roof Rescue, providing watertight peace of mind.
KVNU News Time is 5:08. A driver has been arrested on suspicion of driving under the influence after a rollover crash in Weber County. Officials say the crash involved 3 vehicles just before 4 p.m. Sunday. Specifics on where the crash occurred were not initially given. KUTV reports a pickup truck pulling a camp trailer was in the left of 3 lanes when it changed into the center lane, reportedly hitting a Toyota 4Runner in the center lane with the camp trailer. The 4Runner was then pushed to the right and hit a tanker trailer being pulled by a semi-truck in the right lane. They said the 4Runner veered to the left, hit the center concrete median, and rolled. The driver of the 4Runner was wearing his seatbelt and was taken to the hospital with minor injuries. Officials did not initially report any additional injuries. The driver of the pickup truck was arrested on suspicion of driving under the influence. And Idaho officials are urging voters to get election-related information from trusted sources and report possible voting rights or fraud concerns to officials. Idaho's Secretary of State Lawrence Denny, Attorney General Lawrence Wasden, and District of Idaho U.S. Attorney Josh Hurwitz say state and federal agencies are available leading up to and during Tuesday's election. Idaho's elections are run by 44 elected county clerks with oversight from Denny's office. U.S. Attorney Josh Hurwitz says he has multiple assistant U.S. attorneys across the state to address voting rights and election fraud concerns. KVNU News Time is 5:10. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Dave Ramsey from 6 till 9 on News Talk KVNU 102 FM and 610 AM.
Dr. Josh Red, chiropractic physician, explains how Red River Health and Wellness can help you.
A lot of our patients end up having autoimmune conditions. This is where their immune system, rather than attacking bacteria, a virus, or other bad things, it starts to attack their own tissue. This can cause so many different issues and symptoms throughout the whole body. The biggest thing for us at Red River is to identify what's causing the autoimmune response to flare up. This could be intestinal problems, blood sugar imbalances, cortisol defects, hormonal imbalances, along with something as simple as dietary triggers and environmental triggers. One of the most common causes, too, when you have an autoimmune condition is you'll have inflammation throughout the whole body. Not every patient will have the same imbalances or the same triggers, and so we have to customize a very personalized treatment plan in order for these patients to feel better.
Schedule your appointment today at 855-55-RIVER. Red River Health and Wellness with offices in Logan, South Jordan, Springville, and St. George.
Call Red River today.
Hi, Cache County. It's Mark Ensign. As the election for a new county executive winds down, ask yourself this question. Do you want more of the conflict and dysfunction that's been going on all year? Or do you want to get back to the business of serving Cache County and our residents? To restore trust, transparency, and cooperation, write in Mark Ensign for Cache County Executive.
To learn more, visit ensignforcachecounty.com. Paid for by Mark Ensign.
This is former Cache County Executive Lynn Lemon. I wholeheartedly support Mark Ensign. I hope you will make the extra effort to write him in for County Executive.
Back to KVNU's For the People. It's November 7th, the day before Election Day, but in Utah's more than a decade old now mail ballot system, this is the day that you needed to postmark your ballot. In fact, at this time, if your ballot is not postmarked, don't drop it in a mailbox. If you're not able to walk it in to your post office and hand it to a person who will postmark it before they close, if they're still open at all, you are running the risk of your ballot being invalid due to that out of the window postmark. November 7th is the deadline to postmark your ballot, but that doesn't mean you can't place a vote. If you forgot, if you didn't get to it, if you just haven't had a chance to review the candidates, or if you planned intentionally to vote in person, you have a lot of different ways to do that. In fact, you can drop it in a drop box for the next 27 hours. I'm good at math. 8 p.m. tomorrow night. That is the last time that you can slide your ballot into the slot of a drop box and have it count. You can also vote in person tomorrow only at the Cache County Clerk's office. Just walk in, hand your ballot to an actual person if that's your preference. Also, something that many people forget, if by any chance you didn't get a chance to register, or you were registered but didn't get a ballot because maybe you've moved and they couldn't, or if you send in a ballot and the ballot track service isn't reporting that your ballot has been recorded, go into the clerk's office tomorrow on Election Day. There are many different things they can do. If by chance your signature didn't match the signature on file through the DMV here in the state of Utah, you can fix that tomorrow in person. If you didn't register, you can actually register and cast a provisional ballot tomorrow in person only at the clerk's office. So there are plenty of ways to vote still, even if you're not registered. But if you are registered, if you got your ballot, do not postmark it today. At this point, this late in the day, you're running a risk. So drop it in a drop box. I did some lazy calculations, and the average commute in Utah is estimated to be about 22 minutes. And if you say just randomly that most people travel throughout their locales at say 40, 45 miles an hour, what that means is that on your average commute, that means today and again tomorrow, you will pass no fewer than 2 drop boxes on your commute. Now, it might not be right on your commute. It might be a block or two to the left or right. But looking at the number of drop boxes here in Cache Valley, throughout northern Utah on the Wasatch Front, all the way down to the southern border in Washington County, every person in this state, if they're commuting an average of 20 minutes a day, passes at least 2 drop boxes that are open until 8 p.m. tomorrow night. There is little, if any, excuse not to vote. And again, even if you didn't register and have just decided, maybe one of the ads, maybe one of the candidates, maybe one of the interviews here on our show has made you decide, no, I actually want to have a voice in this election. You can go in tomorrow with proper ID, and you can see what counts as voter ID here in Utah at vote.utah.gov. You can even find your clerk's location if you're not familiar with that, regardless of where you're listening from. You can even find maps of ballot drop boxes, by the way, for those who do have a ballot and just didn't get it postmarked in time. Again, until 8 p.m. tomorrow night, Tuesday night, you can drop those in the drop box. But if you didn't register and you want to go in, again, you can go in tomorrow on Election Day with proper ID, register to vote, and cast a provisional ballot. What does that mean? That means that once your voter registration that you would fill out tomorrow is verified, and they can say, okay, this is a person who can legally vote in Utah, then that provisional ballot becomes a real ballot, and it will be tallied with the final canvass of the election, which will happen roughly 2 weeks from tomorrow on average. Anyway, so another final reminder, things are a bit different this year in many states. They are not very different in Utah. Again, we've been voting by mail for about 12 years now. Almost 13. We, with counting those municipal races where the pilot programs ran 13 years ago, the elections, other than that United States Senate race, are not likely to be close. I mean, there may be some local elections here and there throughout Utah that are close. I know there are a few in Salt Lake County that are going to be close, a few in Weber County that are going to be close. But here in Cache Valley, if I had to guess, the races aren't going to be close. If any are, it will be the Dan Johnson-Patrick Belmont race, but I don't think so. The United States Senate race is going to be close. So keep in mind that on that race, everything else we'll probably know by tomorrow night, 9-10 p.m. at the latest. We'll probably know how this election turned out here in Utah in every race, except that United States Senate race. Some polls have McMullen ahead by a couple points. Some have Mike Lee ahead by a couple points. One poll just last week, just one, showed Mike Lee ahead by 10 points, but the margin of error puts that back down to 5. It had a big margin of error, which is always a good reason to raise one eyebrow about a poll. But the averages, again, show this a single-digit race within the margin of error, and that means this race may take some time to know a clear winner. If this is down to within a single-digit percent or 2%, they might call it tonight. I doubt that is going to be the case. Or tomorrow night. Sorry, not tonight. Sorry, Tuesday night. I would guess, if I had to predict anything, I'm not going to predict a winner in this race because the polling has been pretty equal as far as who's ahead and who's not. The one thing that has been a constant is I'm confident saying this will be a single-digit race, which even if Senator Lee wins, that's not good for a Republican in Utah. So I'm curious, if Senator Lee does win, I'm curious to see if he corrects course a bit going forward. This being, hey, we reelected you, but we're a little disappointed with that Captain Moroni thing and the tell me what I should be saying texts and the Sidney Powell has some good ideas comment. So it'll be interesting to see if Evan McMullen wins. Man, there are hours of discussion we can have on what that might mean. especially considering it would mean an independent in the United States Senate, that if the Senate ends up close to a 50-50 again, which is likely, it means that Evan McMullin and Bernie Sanders, a very conservative independent and a very progressive independent, could become the kingmakers in the United States Senate of everything. That's an interesting thing to consider. I don't know if that's good or bad, but it's an interesting thing to consider. Anyway, so again, we may not know the results of that race tomorrow night. Everything else, I would guess, here on KVNU and via CashValleyData.com, we will probably be able to say there's a decisive winner. Meaning there are not enough outstanding votes, even including provisional ballots and military overseas ballots and things like that, to make a difference in this race. So we're calling a winner tonight. I would guess by 9, 10 o'clock tomorrow evening, most races will be in that category. The United States Senate race probably going to take maybe a day or two. It could possibly take until the full canvass 2 weeks from this week. It could also trigger a recount. Candidates could decide to trigger a recount themselves if they've got the funds to do so, even if it's outside the automatic recount percentage of, I think, 1.5% here in Utah. So that race may not be decided tomorrow evening, but I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if by 10 o'clock tomorrow night we know everything. It's usually what happens here in Utah. But we'll see. Anyway, again, do not mark your ballots today. It is too late to do so. Not too late to vote, though. Even if you're not registered, you can take yourself into the clerk's office tomorrow with proper ID. See what that constitutes proper ID at vote.utah.gov. Register to vote and cast a provisional ballot at the same time. Once your registration is approved, that you are, once they say, okay, this is a legal voter, your provisional ballot becomes a real ballot and is calculated in with the total before that canvassing happens 2 weeks from today or this week. So you can still vote tomorrow even if you're not registered. If you have a ballot and did not mail it by now, do not. Take it to a drop box. You pass at least 2 of them on your daily commute. Again, they are at every city hall here in the Valley. There's one right behind the county administration building, one over in between the library and the city building right in downtown Logan. It is not hard at all to find a drop box. You can find a full map for the entire state of drop boxes at vote.utah.gov as well. And you can also take it, final option, in person to the clerk's office tomorrow and actually hand it to another human being up until 8 p.m. when polls close tomorrow night. That's everything you know to still cast your ballot if you have not, including if you are not registered to vote and have just decided to be. Do that tomorrow at the clerk's office. They'll help you out with that. And again, everything you need to know, from proper forms of voter ID to drop box locations to the overall layout of clerk's offices and options at various clerk's offices tomorrow. Vote.utah.gov. On the other side, we'll review some of our candidate interviews this cycle, from Mike Lee and Evan McMullin to here in Cache Valley, a race between Republican Dan Johnson and Democratic challenger Patrick Belmont, to this county executive race that has really become one of the races to watch. I don't know if it's going to be close. Write-in candidates don't fare very well usually, but it's definitely brought up some interesting issues. And David Zook out today with some pretty big-name endorsements, including Republican lawmaker Dan Johnson and the president of the Chamber of Commerce and the chair of the Cache Republican Party endorsing David Zook for re-election. It's been an interesting one. We'll get to some of the highlights right after this.
Evan McMullin says he's independent. The Democrat Party knows he's not.
Cheers rang loud after Utah Democrats reached a decision
to join Evan McMullin.
Democrats chose to back him.
Why are Biden's allies pulling out all the stops to elect McMullin? Because he'd do their bidding in the Senate. Conservatives know he's a Democrat in disguise, but sometimes his mask slips. His positions on issues match the Democrat platform. He wants to weaken the filibuster, backed Biden's radical Supreme Court nominee, attacked police budgets, supported reckless spending, more debt. He's just another Biden liberal, even campaigned to make him president.
I plan to cast my vote for Joe.
Imagine the America we can have.
Imagine the damage after 2 more years of a Democrat Senate giving Biden free rein. Utah can stop him if we stop McMullen first. Crypto Freedom PAC is responsible for the content of this advertising. Paid for by Crypto Freedom PAC. Not authorized by any candidate or candidates committee. 202-971-1316.
Men Fall Cleanup is here, and it means one thing.
Football!
Okay, it means 2 things.
Hunting!
No.
Yeah, I don't hunt. Hang Christmas lights?
Nope.
Rake the leaves?
No. Call Hall Tree Care.
Yeah, but why?
Fall is the best time to have your trees and shrubs trimmed and hazards removed. Every winter, homes and vehicles are damaged by heavy snow and overgrown trees. Call 760-6587 and ask about their radio discount. Hall Tree Care, that's Hull Tree Care, 760-6587.
Election Day Eve again here on KVNU's For the People. Just getting some of the highlights of our candidate interviews over the last several months, including both candidates in the United States Senate race, Evan McMullen and Mike Lee. I'm excited to be able to say this. We spoke to everyone. I love it. We haven't been able to say that every cycle because we've missed 1 or 2 here or there due to scheduling problems and more. But we were able to get to everyone in this race, including the race that I think most eyeballs are on, for better or worse, the United States Senate race between Republican incumbent Mike Lee and independent challenger Evan McMullen. And we had a chance on 2 different days to ask them a lot of the same questions, to give our listeners an idea of where they're coming from on various issues. And one of the most interesting responses from both of them was a general question about issues in general. What do you think the most important issues of this cycle have been? And Senator Mike Lee said that one of the things he was hearing the most about was actually about his opponent. Why, as Senator Lee said here in the studio, was Evan McMullen not talking so much about the issues?
Actual issues, live issues confronting the American people. Could it be that he's been endorsed by and become the party of the Democratic Party, the President's Party, the party that has driven us to a point of record inflation? It's making life unaffordable in Utah and all over America. Could it be that he's the candidate of the party that wants to undertake all kinds of other things, like opening up our border, rendering us unsafe from foreign aggressors who could come in under the guise that they're coming in from some Central or South American country, but really from somewhere else? Opening up the border to record numbers of tons of fentanyl coming into our country that have been, in effect, weaponized, that have the ability to kill millions of Americans. I wouldn't want to be defending that position either. I wouldn't want to be defending the notion that if elected, he has been nominated by the President's party, and we can anticipate that he will be Chuck Schumer's 51st vote and Joe Biden's guy in the Senate. So this is a pretty clear decision. He wants to make that unclear, and that's why he's focusing on other things and very, very few issues of policy.
Senator Lee took a bit of heat for that answer on our show and elsewhere where he's given it because, it isn't technically true that the Democrats nominated Evan McMullen. The Democrats actually chose not to nominate a candidate so as to not water down any support that might be out there for Senator Lee's challenger. But as Senator Lee's point stands, Democrats did that. It was a political calculation for the state Democratic Party to not nominate a candidate, feeling they would just split support that might be out there for McMullen. So Lee is right in a sense, but again took some heat for saying that Democrats nominated McMullen because that itself isn't true. Senator Lee later in the interview also said that one of the issues that he thought was most important going forward was actually the inflation issue we're facing today. He blamed that, of course, on President Biden's policies. And so when pressed, I asked, what policies he would support to actually counter that. He, like every politician does, said, we've got to get back to, and I'm not criticizing them all for saying this, we've got to get back to focusing on jobs here in the United States. Kind of a quasi-endorsement of something that has only been legislation a bit here and there, which is the Senate and the House at the federal level doing something at least to try to bring back manufacturing jobs. Senator Lee said that will be key in addressing not only inflationary issues but supply chain issues. To the same question, independent candidate Evan McMullin said that what he's hearing from his supporters here in Utah that is most important to them is actually pushing back against the, as he called it, extremism we're seeing within the Republican Party specifically, but even at times in the past, the Democratic Party, Evan McMullin said. He said that extremism is leading to pushing the envelope when it comes to issues, including something that's bubbled up and dominated this Senate race just in the last 2 weeks, Social Security. This began when Republicans on a national stage, not Senator Lee himself, although he endorsed the plan, Republicans on a national stage released sort of a contract with an America type document that shows that, and this has been echoed by individual senators who have said they support the idea, but basically moving towards long explored ideas in the Republican Party of privatizing, even cutting back Social Security. Senator Lee himself, a video has been going around showing him saying he would like to end Social Security. Lee had said that in the past that he would support those who have paid in now and those who are on retirement plans through Social Security now, getting retirement from Social Security now, they would continue. So no one that has paid in so far would be left without a return on their investment, which is what Social Security really is. But Senator Lee says he would like to set a date where people stop paying and Social Security eventually goes away. Evan McMullin said when he talks to voters, that's the one issue he's hearing the most about, and calls Senator Mike Lee's position on that very extreme.
Well, I think first and foremost, let me say that I think Social Security is a critical part of our social fabric in America. I mean, we've all worked long and hard and paid into it, and our parents and grandparents depend on it. They worked hard, they paid into it. I've been paying into it for years. My parents rely upon it. At this rate, so will I. It's an important part of our social fabric, and that doesn't mean that that we can't do different things to make it stronger, and that's certainly something that can always be discussed. But right now we hear ideas about making cuts or ending Social Security, and including my opponent, who we've just recently found a video of him talking to donors, pledging to them that he will end Social Security, that he'll pull it up by its roots. And I just think that's wrong. I think that that's cruel and wrong. And it's extreme, too. Most Republicans don't support that. And most Democrats, of course, don't support that. Most Americans understand the importance of Social Security. Some people want some reforms here and some reforms there. That's fine. We can discuss and debate all of that. But Senator Lee wants to end Social Security. And we found this tape of him talking to his donors, this video. And, we put it into an ad so that all Utahns understand how extreme he is on that issue.
That was Evan McMullin again responding to the same question asked of Senator Lee. What issue is bubbling to the surface as you talk to voters and your support bases? Senator Lee saying again that he's hearing from his strongest supporters that Evan McMullin is avoiding debating issues. And is basically a secret Democrat. My words, not his, but that's basically what he's saying. Evan McMullin saying that he's hearing from his base of support most that Senator Mike Lee is too extreme, and uses Senator Lee in that video saying he'd like to end Social Security as an example. Those are just two clips from what were lengthy interviews with both candidates, and you can find them both via our Podcastics podcast feed. Just search for Podcastics, KVNU's For the People, and you'll find the page. There you can subscribe using your podcasting app of choice. You can also listen directly anytime at kvnutalk.com. Hear the full interviews with Senator Mike Lee, the Republican in this race, and Evan McMullin, the independent challenger in this race, via those two options. And again, do not mail your ballots today. If you haven't mailed them already, it is too late. Drop them into Dropbox tonight or tomorrow, anytime up until 8 p.m., or take them to the clerk's office, where you can also If you're not, register to vote and cast a provisional ballot tomorrow on Election Day. More information on voting in general, including what counts as voter ID, drop box locations, hours for your clerk's office tomorrow at vote.utah.gov. And we'll be back with more highlights from our interview with, again, proudly we say, every candidate in the races here in northern Utah right after this look at the news with KVNU's Bill Walter.
Thank you, Jason. KVNU News Time is 5:35, and the news is brought to you by Logan Extermination. A 51-year-old Logan man has been arrested and charged with allegedly downloading child pornography, according to police. Kevin William Jones was briefly booked into the Cache County Jail and later released Thursday afternoon. Logan City Police Captain Curtis Hooley said Jones went to the police department with his attorney on October 24th. He reportedly told officers that he had been downloading and viewing child pornography. Police gathered evidence from the suspect and turned the case over to the Cache County Attorney's Office. On Thursday, prosecutors filed a criminal case against Jones in First District Court, including one charge of sexual exploitation of a minor, a second-degree felony. Court records show Jones is scheduled to be arraigned before a judge December 12th. He could face up to 15 years in prison if convicted. In our monthly spotlight of the Family Place Utah during their 40th anniversary, Kids Place director Krista Usechi was a guest on KVNU's For the People program this past Thursday and talked about some of the classes they offered. She also mentioned that they offer their mental health first aid training, both an adult and teen version.
Just much like first aid, right? We learned first aid to help save somebody's life. Well, mental health first aid is much the same. Learning more about different mental illnesses and how to respond and how we can be there for people to help them through whatever situation it is and get them to the proper care that they need.
The Family Place operates entirely on community support, and on their website you can see ways to volunteer and to donate. On there is information about their Starfish giving machine where you can see exactly what your donation can go for. And Krista had some news about donations.
I also do want to say it is our giving campaign right now, since you mentioned that. And we have a donor that has offered to match all of our donations up to $100,000.
Oh, wow.
So anything you give to the giving machine or to the Family Place will be matched up until the end of the year.
And you can get more information at the familyplaceutah.org. Thanks to a relatively early start to winter weather, Utah's snowpack is kicking off the water year in great shape. However, there are still several months of winter to go, and hopefully several more after that of snowpack to help fill the state's streams, rivers, lakes, and reservoirs. According to Saturday's data from the USDA, Utah had about 4 times more than the median snowpack for this time of the year. At 2 inches of water snow equivalent, the state's mountain snow is 396% of the median for the beginning of November, which is currently 0.5 inches. That half inch represents the very middle total from USDA's data between 1991 and 2020, and it aligns with the snowpack numbers from this time last year. The median peak snow water equivalent in Utah is currently just shy of 16 inches. The lowest number on the median date in the last 30 years was in 2015, when Utah had just 6 inches of snow water equivalent. In the last water year in which the Great Salt Lake reached its lowest level in history, and Governor Cox issued another state of emergency due to Utah's ongoing drought, the state reached its highest snowpack water equivalent of 12 inches in March. It stuck around for about as long as the snowpack does any other year, early to mid-June, but it produced significantly less water. We'll check the forecast. Up next, KVNU News Time is 5:39.
Even though the weather's grown colder, you still have time to have your fruit trees pruned. Logan Extermination says your trees need to be trimmed back in order to achieve success next year. And this is the first step to a bountiful harvest. However, you could do more bad than good if you don't know what you're doing. Save the headache and call Logan Extermination today and get a jump on tree pruning. Prices will vary depending on your needs. Logan Extermination, 752-8450.
KBNU weather for tonight, breezy conditions, rain this evening, rain after midnight, 80% chance, overnight low in the mid-30s. South winds 15 to 25 miles an hour, decreasing to 10 to 20. Rain Tuesday morning, rain likely in the afternoon, high temperature in the upper 40s tomorrow. Rain Tuesday night, rain and snow Wednesday morning, rain and snow likely in the afternoon with some accumulations possible. It's been to 57 earlier today, and it's 34 right now at KBNU. KBNU weather brought to you by Mount Logan Laundry, located at 1st East and 7th South in Brigham City, and also 5th East, 9th North in Logan. Mount Logan Laundry has free Wi-Fi. For more details on these and other stories, visit CacheValleyDaily.com.
Education is not just my job. It's what I'm passionate about and have been for the past 30 years. I love education, and it's what I've built my career on. If it wasn't for the influence of great educators early on in my life, I wouldn't be where I am today. My name is Kurt Benjamin, father, grandfather, and former educator. I know the value of listening, building relationships, and understanding public education policy. I know that what's done at the home and what happens in the classroom work together as one to help influence young lives. I love our valley and state and care about our future, so I'm asking for your support as I work for change in the Utah Board of Education in District 1. I'm Curtis Benjamin, running for the Utah State Board of Education, and I approve this message. Paid for by Elect Curtis Benjamin for USBE District 1.
The right Medicare agent makes a huge difference. At Jessup Insurance and Retirement Services, we know Medicare is not a one-size-fits-all. We will ask the right questions to help you make the very best decision. Let us help you today and for all future Medicare needs and concerns. Remember, now is the time to enroll or make changes to your Medicare plan. Call Jessup Insurance at 435-213-3200 or go to jessupinsurance.com. We will work hard to be a great agent for you.
Jessup Insurance and Retirement Services. Let us guide you.
What is dedication?
My daughter started making necklaces. She makes what we call affirmation fashion. I tell her every day that your black is beautiful. Your black is beautiful. And if there's anything better than being beautiful, it's being smart. And if there's anything better than being smart, it's being kind. And reaffirming that every day is our method of making sure her chin never drops. My dad wasn't around, and I remember riding a bike and falling off and cutting myself, and me never just wanted to get back on it. People ask, how your children learn how to ride a bike, and you didn't. I didn't teach them. I just created an environment where they taught themselves, and all I had to do was be there.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
It was a normal day.
He was in some minor accident, a fender bender.
And I had this impulse to call him, but I didn't because I thought I could call him later that week.
He abandoned the car, he came home, and he shot himself without ever talking to anyone.
When I came home that night and I found her, they told me that she had shot herself, and I couldn't believe it.
I asked if he was okay.
Taking a gun into your house for protection is a terrible myth.
Once you pull that trigger, that's it. There is no coming back.
65 Americans a day die by gun suicide. Store your gun securely, locked, unloaded, and away from ammunition. Help stop suicide. Learn more at endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by Brady and the Ad Council.
Tomorrow is Election Day. You might have heard. November 8th. Polls open until 8 p.m. tomorrow evening, meaning you can drop off your ballots in person or at a drop box here in Cache Valley until 8 p.m. tomorrow evening. Again, do not mark your ballot at this point. Don't drop it in a mail slot. Don't put it in your mailbox at home. Don't drop it at the post office. At this point, it's too late. Take your ballot to a drop box. They're at every city hall throughout the valley. There's one behind the county admin building, one between Logan Town Hall and the library location. There's one everywhere. You can see a full map from border to border, Cache Valley to Washington County at vote.utah.gov, where you can also see what qualifies as voter ID if you're not registered and plan to register in person tomorrow on Election Day, which is an option here in Utah. You register, you cast a provisional ballot at the same time. Once your registration is approved, once they say, okay, this is a legal voter here in Utah, your provisional ballot becomes an actual ballot and is counted in the final tally and canvass that will take place 2 weeks from this week. That is, again, everything at vote.utah.gov if you'd like to know more about that. We're recapping some of our time with candidates in some of the races that have gotten the most attention here in Cache Valley and statewide. Before the news there, you heard from both Republican Senator Mike Lee, the incumbent in this Senate race, and challenger independent candidate Evan McMullin, who has made this race competitive. And again, you know, regardless of how this turns out, we're all going to be discussing that for a while to come. Did Senator Lee invite this himself with some of his, tell me what I should be saying texts to the chief of staff, comparing Trump to Captain Moroni, saying Sidney Powell had some good ideas, things that have kind of been baggage for Senator Mike Lee. Did that invite a challenger, and is the electorate that open to replacing him? Or if he wins, but only by single digits, sending a message to Senator Mike Lee to get his act together? Or is Evan McMullin that strong of a candidate? Again, we'll be parsing that regardless of the election outcome for a while. And it's sure to lead to some change in either, the name of who's representing us in the Senate or the behavior of the representative in the Senate, one way or another. So if you want to hear those full interviews again with Senator Mike Lee, the incumbent, and challenger independent candidate Evan McMullin, both are available via our Podcastics podcast. Just simply search Podcastics and KVNU's For the People. You'll find that and be able to subscribe, never miss an episode via your podcasting app of choice on your mobile device. You can also listen directly any day at kvnutalk.com to any of our interviews there. Again, highlights from the United States Senate candidates before the break. One local race that was kind of not a race, then suddenly was a race, and then became, I think, one of the most heated races in northern Utah, has been the county executive race. Now, of course, on your ballot, you'll only see one name, Cache County Executive David Zook, and that's because no one filed to run against him. In summertime this year, after the filing deadline was passed, here's what we know so far. 3 county council members, Gina Worthen, Paul Borup, and David Erickson, who had some clashes with Zook, and they're very, very different styles, or you might say a bit of a power struggle on the council, dealing with a more agenda-driven county executive, a county executive that had, his own list of things he'd like to get done. That's caused some clashes. And 3 county council members, David Erickson, who I think it's relevant to note, lost to Zook in the nomination within the Republican Party for the county executive race when Zook was first elected. And Gina Worthen and Paul Borup recruited a write-in candidate to run against him. At the time, I gave him a thumbs up. No race should go uncontested, right? No candidate should just sail into re-election without having to fight for it at least a little bit. Since then, though, it's evolved, or some might say devolved, into something else entirely, with accusations thrown around that get pretty wild at times. I have said myself, I hold no one innocent in this. David Zook, county executive, here on our own show has said, he regrets some of his decisions and how he approached the council at first, but he wishes that they would, just put it aside and that they could all sit down and talk like adults and move forward. On the county council's part, though they are playing innocent, the council is not at all innocent in any of this. There is definitely an ego trip at play here, at least on the part of some. So I hold no one innocent in this, but it has been surprising to see it continue to fester instead of getting better. That will probably change. The outcome of this election will change it. If I had to make a prediction, well, I won't. But what we do know is that there are Paul Borup, Gina Worthen are outgoing. There will be 3 new members of the council starting in January. And so maybe that will be a good reset, and relationships between the council and the executive could be repaired. Either way, here's my personal take. I think the county council has conveniently treated the county executive like a simple managerial administrative position when it suited their purposes. And I think they've treated it like a county mayor at other times when it suited the council's purposes. I don't think that's right. And I think that they need to pick a lane when it comes to this. Either the county executive is similar to a county mayor and can set their own agenda to some extent, spend their own budget without running every little expenditure through the council for approval to some extent, create task forces, which here's where I fault the county council a little bit in all of this, or maybe a lot. You should not be opposed to task forces. That was one of the gripes that these 3 council members had, is the county executive was convening task forces to solve problems, people. It's why we elect people to office, right? One of them was a housing task force. It was a task force convened by Executive David Zook to understand what was causing the housing crisis here in Cache Valley specifically. We know there's a statewide housing crisis, but every area is different. So in Cache Valley, what specifically would make a difference? This task force was convened. They worked for 6 months before producing a report that was presented both publicly and to the council in a council meeting. It was robust, it was useful, and it just won an award from a state association. It won a statewide award for its work, this task force. You can't say that's a bad thing, and yet that was one of the gripes that these council members had, is that how dare the county executive? Well, I mean, the county council can convene task forces too. It's not the county executive's fault that for 30 years they chose not to. I like that some of these problems are being solved. That said, it is kind of important that the county executive and the county council be able to work together. Otherwise, as we've seen, things break down a little bit. So we'll see how this plays out and what voters decide. But for what it's worth, we did have a chance to talk to both candidates. And here's just a little bit of what Mark Ensign had to tell us in studio. When I asked the question of him, why did you run? And what do you see as the defining role of the county executive?
Jason, I go back to when our form of government, our county form of government, was originally set up. And, unlike most counties who have county commissioners, in this county, we established a county council, which is to function primarily like a board of directors would in a private company.
Okay.
And then the county executive works with the council, but the county executive's primary responsibility is to work with the 35 different county departments to provide services to members of the county.
Later on in October, we spoke with Cache County Executive David Zook, and I asked him basically the same question. Zook responded by saying, look, of course, some are going to define it this way, some are not. The code doesn't clearly spell it out. But look at the results. Zook defended some of his choices as county executive by saying, one, this is all legal. The county and it is. The county executive can convene task forces just like the county council can. I don't know why anyone object to that, but the council members have some. Zook defended his convening of task forces by saying, look at the results.
We've been doing, over the past year and a half that I've been county executive, we've been bringing people, volunteers oftentimes, to the table to help us tackle issues like our housing crisis, for example. We put together our housing crisis task force. We had about 50 people from the community. These were volunteers. They didn't get paid to do that. They just said, you know what, this is a problem. We want to get involved. How can we get involved? How can we help? And they showed up and they helped out. We've had so many of those issues. The open space issue is another one where we started having a conversation. We said, what can we do to preserve open space? And people came out of the woodwork. They said, I want to be part of this. I want to help. I want to preserve open space. And that committee was formed, and now we have Prop 1 on the ballot to preserve our open space. We have so many examples of good people coming together, working together, and solving problems in our community, and that's what we're going to keep doing.
And again, the Housing Crisis Task Force, convened by County Executive David Zook, won a statewide award for its work and its results. And what the statewide association said was something every county should try and replicate. Zook pointed to that and said, you can't say this isn't working and is not good government. You can listen to the full interviews with both write-in candidate Mark Ensign, recruited by these three council members to run in what was previously an uncontested race for re-election for Cache County Executive David Zook. And you can also hear Zook himself in both in a full hour-long interviews on our show throughout the last several weeks. I've linked to them on our Facebook page. You can also search for Podcastics and KVNU's For the People. Subscribe to our podcast, never miss an episode. Also search candidates by name to find their specific podcast episodes on our show, or listen directly each and every day at CacheValleyDaily.com and KVNUTalk.com. And we'll be back with more of For the People right after this.
Hi, it's Chris at Levin's. People ask us all year long, when is your big sale? It's the 11th day of the 11th month, 11/11 at Levin's. Come in for men's suits only $160 and up. Pattern ties 5 for $25, solid ties 5 for $15, socks $2.50, dress pants $22. All women's and men's clothing on sale. Every item in the store up to 50% off. This week only, Levin's, downtown 69 North Main Street.
For less at Levin's, where men and women look their best.
Is it just me, or does life seem to slow down this time of year? The kids are back in school, the days are shorter, everyone is on more of a routine. I love it because I get to spend more time with Mom. You see, we moved Mom to Legacy House of Logan a while back, and it's been the best thing for her and us. The meals are wonderful. The activities are so good for Mom. She's made so many friends. The attention they give Mom is more than I could ask for. Thank you, Legacy House.
Legacy House of Logan provides 24-hour care to help your loved one with daily activities on 1400 North in Logan.
Hi, Cache County. It's Mark Ensign. As the election for a new county executive winds down, ask yourself this question. Do you want more of the conflict and dysfunction that's been going on all year? Or do you want to get back to the business of serving Cache County and our residents? To restore trust, transparency, and cooperation, write in Mark Ensign for Cache County Executive.
To learn more, visit ensignforcachecounty.com. Paid for by Mark Ensign.
This is former Cache County Executive Lynn Lemon. I wholeheartedly support Mark Ensign. I hope you will make the extra effort to write him in for County Executive.
You've been putting up with a dirty, dusty wood stove for years. Why haven't you changed it? Go to Advanced Fireplace and Stove in Logan. Look through their showroom for ideas on Quadra-Fire pellet and wood stoves and Heat and Glow gas fireplaces. They have several demos in place so you can see firsthand how your project will look. And you can trust the pros at Advanced Fireplace and Stove. They'll do the job right. Advanced Fireplace and Stove. 752-7272. Online at advancedfireplaceandstove.com.
Vehicle accidents are stressful enough. You don't need someone showing up at the scene trying to pressure you into letting them tow away your vehicle. Call your roadside assistance provider or insurance company for towing company suggestions, or consult with police on the scene. And always have the price and terms in writing before you let them hook it up. If you suspect fraud, call us at 1-800-TEL-NICB or visit www.nicb.org. A public service message from the National Insurance Crime Bureau.
Text and work. Text and pretend to work. Text and act surprised when someone calls you out for not working. Who, me? Text and whatever, just don't text and drive. Visit StopTextsStopWrecks.org. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
If you're a veteran in crisis or know a veteran who is, call the Veterans Crisis Line today at 1-800-273-8255 and press 1.
Are you sick of politics? Believe it or not, it happens to me as well. It'll all be over tomorrow, except it won't. Like I say, it might take us a few days, even a week, to know the outcome of the United States Senate race. Everyone's going to be arguing. You're going to hear some, I would say, meritless and frankly silly claims of election fraud. It's the trend these days. It'll fade too. It'll go throughout the week at least, and then maybe it'll be over until it starts up in January. Again, the perpetual campaign never sleeps, right? But I have good news for our listeners and KVNU listeners in general here tonight. We're wrapping our show up with a little game day music because that's next here on KVNU Logan. Al Lewis and Aggie Game Day right after this.
Covering all the news. Stay with 610 AM and 102.1 FM. Breaking news and stimulating talk. KVN.